of a different girlfriend nearly a decade earlier. The cold case came.
For Jaleel Smith Riley, we don't think he was too happy to hear sentence for his crimes. On the 16th of November, 2013, couple Portia Brooks and Aaron Martin were sitting in a car when Jaleel knocked on the car window holding a gun and forced Aaron Martin out of the car and robbed him. After taking all of Aaron's cash, Jaleel then shot Aaron in the head, went inside the car and shot Portia Brooks twice. Police arrived at 10:30 p.m. Portia died in hospital 3 days later, and although Aaron Martin survived, he was left permanently brain damaged. This was Jaleel's reaction to receiving life without parole.
The defendant served a term of life without parole. As to count 4 for the offense of attempted murder.
This reaction from a confessed killer was the last in a series of intense moments in this Hamilton County courtroom, and exactly what the victims' families asked for.
I have to deal with life without Portia, so he should deal with life without parole.
With his request to withdraw his guilty plea denied and death penalty off the table, the families of Portia Brooks and Aaron Martin pleaded with Judge Charles Kubicki to hand down the maximum sentence. Smith Riley's family begged for a shorter one. With no criminal record outside of that night, they believed he had the capacity to be rehabilitated.
But for Eric Penland, he clearly didn't believe he should be serving any time for his crimes. He was sentenced to 11 years for shaking his 3-month-old son so violently. He was left permanently disabled, blind and deaf, and in hospital recovering. The 3-month-old had a bleed on the brain, hemorrhaging in his eyes, and was unresponsive and stayed in hospital for over 2 months and went through at least 3 surgeries. He was later adopted but is on a feeding tube for the rest of his life and can never walk again. Instead of accepting what he did, Eric Penland thought it better to start swearing at the judge.
Sentenced to 11 years, the defendant bowed and shook his head before letting out one final outburst.
Man, I didn't do anything wrong, man.
Prosecutors tell me the little victim, who's now 2, was formally adopted by the Lawsons a few weeks ago and now lives out of the...
Lance Dyer's sister wasn't happy after hearing that her brother was going to prison for 11 years for pointing a gun on police after he was in a police chase with a stolen car. The police officer then shot Lance Dyer in the hand.
It was an explosive ending to a case that started over a year ago. Lance Dyer was only 16 when he was involved in a brief police chase in a stolen car. Dyer bailed from the vehicle and pointed a gun at a Dayton officer while trying to get away. That cop fired and shot Dyer in the hand.
Ellis Nelson Ortiz Nieves didn't think he should be held accountable for beating a 4-year-old boy to death. The boy was found dead lying on the kitchen floor by police one day when Ellis had been left in charge of a number of kids under the age of 11. An autopsy showed the 4-year-old died from an internal bleed caused by an abdominal tear which had caused him to bleed to death, and he also had injuries to the top of his head, lower back, and had 2 broken ribs.
In the shape of a belt buckle.
I ain't gonna let you sit here and say no crazy shit about me, man. No, man, because he don't even know, man.
Sir, the testimony showed that you put this child and other childs in a shower with ice cold water. Anybody says anything back there, arrest them.
Stop it! Stop it,
Manson Bryant was first given 22 years for armed robbery after he crawled through the window of a trailer home and held the resident at gunpoint as he robbed him. He was convicted of robbery, kidnap, and had a weapons charge. Watch what the judge does after Manson's outburst.
Will have the ability to pay restitution.
32-year-old Manson Bryant of Paynesville has just been sentenced to 22 years in prison for his role in a violent home invasion and robbery.
22 years?
Manson Bryant directs his anger at Lake County Common Pleas Court Judge Eugene Lucci. This is the 4th time that Bryant has stood before Judge Lucci as a convicted felon, and the judge notes that Bryant's crimes have become more and more violent over the years.
The last time before this time that I had him, I put him in prison for 4 years for a robbery. He acted out briefly on... Wait a minute.
Before sentencing, Manson Bryant had expressed remorse for his crimes, but his outburst sways the judge's opinion about whether Bryant has learned any lessons from his life of crime.
Well, it was clear that the remorse that he was trying to portray was phony, and that he wasn't remorseful at all, and that if given the chance, if I let him loose on society, he's going to prey on other people.
Manson, calm down, bro. Let me out the courtroom, man.
After listening to Manson Bryant's tirade, Judge Lucci decided to add 6 years onto his sentence.
I love you, bro. I love you, man. I love you, Chad.
So that's 28 years.
Daryl Brooks has an extensive criminal history, including a conviction in 2007 for a sex crime, then for shooting towards his nephew and friend in July 2020, and also had a record for domestic violence after he had attacked his girlfriend in a hotel room, and another time he hit his girlfriend and then hit her with his vehicle at a gas station. He was now in court, charged with killing 6 people and injuring 62 others on the 21st of November, 2021, after he had driven a vehicle at 40 miles per hour through an annual Christmas parade in Waukesha, Wisconsin. He got sentenced to life without parole plus an additional 763 years. In court, he had outbursts and would never agree with anything people were saying about him, and stared down the judge in a threatening manner.
Told me she was interrupting. We can ask that question
He is
too then.
over the top animated
Did you
right
know
now.
that?
Mr. Brooks, I'm ordering you to sit down and to let the state
No,
finish.
no, I'm not going to sit here and let somebody be inaccurate on the record and lie on the record.
Right. Under Illinois versus Allen, I've warned him repeatedly. He's being removed from the courtroom. And you know what? Let me dial that back. We're just going to take an early lunch, 1 hour. We'll be back. And unless he brings that letter, and he can show it is inadmissible, she will not be questioned, and under 906.11 I will declare the cross-examination closed. Thank you, we're in recess, 1 hour.
Get your facts straight.
1997, an OWI 4th from 2003, criminal trespass to dwelling from 2006.
Right, I need to take a break. This man right now is having a stare down with me. It's very disrespectful. He pounded his fist. Frankly, it makes me scared. And we're taking a break.